common with the rest of men, nothing could deliver me from my fatal consistency. We cannot escape from ourselves. An outpost of progress is the lightest part of the loot I carried off from Central Africa, the main portion being, of course, the heart of darkness. Other men have found a lot of quite different things there, and I have the comfortable conviction that what I took would not have been of much use to anybody else. And it must be said that it was but a very small amount of plunder. All of it could go into one's breast pocket when folded neatly. As for the story itself, it is true enough in its essentials. The sustained invention of a really telling lie demands a talent which I do not possess. The Idiots is such an obviously derivative piece of work that it is impossible for me to say anything about it here. The suggestion of it was not mental but visual, the actual idiots. It was after an interval of long groping amongst vague impulses and hesitations which ended in the production of The Nigger that I turned to my third short story in the order of time, the first in this volume, Karain, A Memory. Reading it after many years, Karain produced on me the effect of something seen through a pair of glasses from a rather advantageous position. In that story I had not gone back to the archipelago, I had only turned for another look at it. I admit that I was absorbed by the distant view, so absorbed that I didn't notice then that the motive of the story is almost identical with the motive of the lagoon. However, the idea at the back is very different, but the story is mainly made memorable to me by the fact that it was my first contribution to Blackwood's magazine, and that it led to my personal acquaintance with Mr. William Blackwood, whose guarded appreciation I felt nevertheless to be genuine, and prized accordingly. Karain was begun on a sudden impulse only 3 days after I wrote the last line of The Nigger, and the recollection of its difficulties is mixed up with the worries of the unfinished return, the last pages of which I took up again at the time, the only instance in my life when I made an attempt to write with both hands at once, as it were. Indeed, my innermost feeling now is that The Return is a left-handed production. Looking through that story lately, I had the material impression of sitting under a large and expensive umbrella in the loud drumming of a heavy rain shower. It was very distracting. In the general uproar one could hear every individual drop strike on the stout and distended silk. Mentally the reading rendered me dumb for the remainder of the day, not exactly with astonishment, but with a sort of dismal wonder. I don't want to talk disrespectfully of any pages of mine. Psychologically there were, no doubt, good reasons for my attempt, and it was worthwhile, if only to see to what excesses I was capable in that sort of virtuosity. In this connection I should like to confess my surprise on finding that, notwithstanding all its apparatus of analysis, the story consists for the most part of physical impressions of sound and sight, railway stations, streets, a trotting horse, reflections in mirrors, and so on, rendered as if for their own sake, and combined with a sublimated description of a desirable middle-class town residence which somehow manages to produce a sinister effect. For the rest, any kind word about The Return, and there have been such words said at different times, awakens in me the liveliest gratitude, for I know how much the writing of that fantasy has cost me in sheer toil, in temper, and in disillusion. J.C. End of author's note. Tales of Unrest by Joseph Conrad. Karain, A Memory. Karain, A Memory, Part 1. We knew him in those unprotected days when we were content to hold in our hands our lives and our property. None of us, I believe, has any property now, and I hear that many, negligently, have lost their lives, and I am sure that the few who survive are not yet so dim-eyed as to miss, in the befogged respectability of their newspapers, the intelligence of various native risings in the eastern archipelago. Sunshine gleams between the lines of those short paragraphs, sunshine and the glitter of the sea. A strange name wakes up memories. The printed words scent the smoky atmosphere of today faintly with the subtle and penetrating perfume as of land breezes breathing through the starlight of bygone nights. A signal fire gleams like a jewel on the high brow of a sombre cliff.